sing this whole freaking song. I'm still actually working on relearning it at this point. January 2015 will be the, well, not January, but 2015 will be the 50th year of writing this freaking thing. And if I would have imagined that it'd be so popular, I would have made it a hell of a lot shorter. Nobody in their right mind would have wrote an 18-minute monologue to become well-known. But that's what's happening. So we're doing a 50th anniversary tour that'll last a couple of years. It'll start January 2015, which gives me about a year to learn this freaking thing again. And the only reason I was consenting to do it is because Abe told me. So Abe is the tech guy in the family, and he said, Dad, we could put an iPad down there, and you can, just remember it that way. And I said, why should I be the only one? Why don't we put it on a big screen with the bouncing ball? And everybody would have to suffer. We are actually working on that. I didn't even take a phone call Annie today and said, yeah, you can do that. See, I'm not the only one who has to endure. Imagine being in our family. And people, come up to my kids and even the grandkids and say, oh, it must be so wonderful being in that family. You all sitting around Thanksgiving singing Alice's Rose. At any rate, we'll get to it, but it ain't going to be tonight. We're continuing with the theme of the night, my dad's stuff, and he didn't write anything nearly as long, because he was smarter than me. I remember hearing the stories, though, it was in the early 40s before I was born, that he had completed a book. It was called Bound for Glory. And the book come out, and it did very well. It was an autobiography, and the nice thing about it for him was that up until that time, they didn't use the term singer-songwriter in those days, but they called him the Dust Bowl Balladeer. And suddenly, he was also a literary figure. The likes of, writing about the same folks like John Steinbeck had, and talking about his times and his folks and where he'd come from and the hardships that he endured and all that. And my dad felt very good about that. Matter of fact, it's a very funny John Steinbeck story. My dad had gone to see the movie, The Grapes of Wrath, when it came out. And he was so moved by it, he went home and devoured the book. He read it a few times and distilled the entire novel into a song. He called it The Ballad of Tom Joad. It was 12 verses long, one of the longer songs he ever wrote. And couldn't even fit it on one of these old 78 records that were popular at the time. It was only about 3.5 minutes you could get on each side of that. So they had to cut the song in half and put one half on one side, one half on the other. So The Ballad of Tom Joad comes out as a recording. Within a few weeks, he gets a letter, a personal letter from John Steinbeck himself. And the letter read, "You little bastard. How could you possibly say in 12 verses what it took me an entire novel to write?" We kept that letter, that was pretty good. And we eventually made up with the Steinbecks. I had to marry off my youngest daughter to one of the related nephews, but it's worked out, everybody's happy now. So, the war notwithstanding, though, I guess what I'm saying is that the 40s were fairly good to my dad until the early part of the 50s, when he wasn't feeling so well and things started going downhill. He was getting dizzy, he was falling down, So he quit drinking. That didn't do anything, so Eventually, he checked himself into a hospital here in New Jersey, to see if there was something seriously wrong with him, physically wrong. He was in the hospital getting evaluated for 3 months. And at the end of the 3-month evaluation, the head doctor calls my mom on the phone and says, "Mrs. Guthrie, your husband is seriously ill. He's got delusions of grandeur. He believes he's a famous folk singer. He believes he's written books people are reading, made recordings people are listening to." My mom's on the other end of the phone going, "My God, the doctors are nuts." So she goes to break him out, but he's made friends now and doesn't want to leave. Although, you know, it had to be tough. You imagine being in a hospital filled with thousands of people, nobody believes anything about anybody. Although he did tell me that toward the end of that first 3 months, a new patient comes on the ward one day, walks right up to him and says, "I know who you are. You're Woody Guthrie." My father said, "You know who I am?" The man said, "I loved your book, Bound for Glory." My father said, "You read my book?" The man said, "No, I ate your book." Sometimes you can't get a break in this world. Anyway, this was stuff wrong with him. He stayed in the hospital for the next 15 years until he passed away. But every week we'd break him out. Get the fiddles and the banjos, the mandolins, the friends and neighbors, you know, bring some food, people that wanted to meet him, people that wanted to talk to him and stuff. We'd sit around and do that all day. And I thought that was pretty good. I know a lot of truckers didn't see their kids half that much. So we thought it was all right. And he kept writing the whole time he was in there. He wrote songs, he wrote books, even wrote a play. And my sister Nora has been getting this material out every year. There's more songs that come out, more books that come out. And one of these days that play is going to come out about his time in there, and it's going to be hysterical. And I can't wait for that. I want to sing you, though, one of the last little songs he wrote. Once I get in tune. You'd think out of 12 strings, one would be in tune. At some point, when he was in the hospital one time, he just wrote this little song. There was no tune to it. I put a tune to it some years back. It's only 2 verses long, but I thought it was a beautiful summary of his life in some way. And so short, just these 2 little verses that I'm going to sing it, but then I'm going to sing it again, the same ones. And the second time through, I'm going to give everybody here the words, and so maybe you can help me out. I haven't asked all night. I know this ain't like 40, 50 years ago. We'd be singing along every day. You know. It's a little too kumbaya for people these days. You know. So if you're nervous about singing next to people you don't know that well or something like that, don't worry. Just mumble your way through. Trust me, I know people make a living doing it. It's perfectly fine. And when people are singing and mumbling together, something happens. Gets inside you. Fixes things you didn't even know was wrong. And better than that, it gets out of a building like this, tossed on the breeze that's blowing out there right now to places around the world we might not be thinking about. And there might be friends of ours, or neighbors, or kin halfway around the world. Other people have been shooting at them for days. They're hiding behind rocks and trees and walls. I can tell you those guys can hear on the breeze over there the voices of people singing and mumbling together over here, and the sounds of kids playing, and the sound of the world the way it's supposed to be. And that depends on people like us from time to time, just to keep that in mind. That's what all that kumbaya stuff's about. So here's a little song. We'll see what you do with it. It just goes something like this. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. It's all I ever knew. I give my peace to green and black, to red and white and blue. My peace